is after that that the commission's lawyer would have the opportunity to cross-examine. It does appear that in this particular case, the cross-examination is taking place even before the witness will be heard. And it's important that the witness be given the opportunity to give an idea or an outcome of what exactly happened on that day, so that the cross-examination it does appear it's beginning to be a problem for the witness. The account is important.
This is not the order in which the commission has been sitting. But that has not been the procedure we have been following.
But it's important, if my Lord will permit me, Mr. Chair will permit me, that the witness at least is given the opportunity to give his side, then the cross-examination, so that at least it gives him the opportunity to present in a more coherent manner what he has.
Are you basing that on any authority?
My Lord, he is your witness, so he must testify to what he has said. That requires no citation. That's more of a private, law.
The witness
so
will have every opportunity to tell us what happened in the course of the examination by counsel.
Assuming a question is not asked in relation to what happened, then the opportunity for him to speak to that will not come up. Because it's cross-examination.
It is not cross-examination.
More or less.
It is not
Very well.
cross-examination.
If we have to take it this way, because the commission's lawyer is going to ask questions that he believes are relevant to the commission's work, that may run a bit more different from what the witness might have witnessed on that day.
When counsel completes his examination of the witness,
Very well.
and the witness has anything else to add, he may do so.
My Lord, we will just will abide by your ruling on this matter. Thank you.
My Lord, and if I may clarify, as part of the duties of the counsel for the commission, I am supposed to lead the witness in his evidence. So some of my questions will be guiding him to give his account. I also have the duty to cross-examine on the evidence he gives. So basically, that is what we have been doing.
This is so wrong on every score, but no matter how long it takes, you will fight. This is so wrong. You killed a man in his own house. His own house. Here, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys. In his own house. You killed a man in his own house.
Honorable, this is a video in which you were seen to be assaulted by a man said to be a national security operative. Have you previously seen this video?
Yes, my lord.
Very well. Now, where in the constituency did this take place?
the La Bawaleshi polling station.
La Bawaleshi police station. Now, when the video began, you were seen walking across. Would you tell the commission where you were coming from?
My lords, at this point, I think that to aid this commission, I would let you know how I found myself at La Bawaleshi. In the morning of 31st January 2019, Thursday, at 6:45 a.m., I entered the Ayawaso West Wagon constituency to discharge my duty as an election monitor. My first point of call was the University of Ghana campus, where I met 3 of my colleague members of parliament, the Honorable Alfred Oko van der Poel, the Honorable Francis Dakura, and the Honorable Linda Obiniwa Okuli. I met my 3 colleagues in front of Legon Hall on Legon campus. This was a few minutes before 7 in the morning. So that was my first point of call in the constituency. There was a polling station in front of Legon Hall. Whilst I met my colleagues to give them their EC accreditations as monitors, I noticed a large convoy of about 10 vehicles with heavily armed masked men on the streets of University of Ghana campus, few minutes before 7 a.m. in the morning. After handing out the accreditations to my colleagues, my job entailed also going around the University of Ghana campus, the other polling stations, which I proceeded to do. I then met with the Regional Secretary of the NDC, Honorable Theophilus Tetechai, at a careful hall annex A, where there was another polling station. Whilst engaging with him there, we were joined by the Deputy National Women's Organizer of the NDC, Amifwa Sichiedu. We interacted for a bit there, and I indicated to them that I needed to proceed into East Legon, because for the purposes of our monitoring, the constituency had been zoned into 7 zones, even though there are 6 electoral areas in the constituency. I needed to move into the next zone, which was East Legon. We exited the University of Ghana campus through the Okonglo gate, and as soon as we crossed into the Okonglo township, I noticed 2 polling stations right at the edge there. I stopped. At this time, I was accompanied in a second vehicle that belonged to the Deputy National Women's Organizer. All this while, I had been alone in my vehicle, driving myself. We stopped at the 2 polling stations at the Konglo and interacted with the 2 presiding officers and the party agents there. Our next point of call was the La Bawaleshi polling station. Upon arrival at the La Bawaleshi polling station, and for emphasis, I repeat, I was driving myself alone in a white Toyota Camry, which you would see in many of the footage that you have. Some of the footage you've shown and some of the footage I will show to you that was parked in the premises of the polling station. I was driving myself. The second vehicle happened to be a Land Rover that had the Deputy National Women Organizer, Mami Ifwa, as the occupant, with 1 other person and her driver driving behind me. Upon arrival at La Bawaleshi polling station, we again encountered this convoy of heavily armed, masked men exiting the polling station. About 3 of their vehicles were already on the main street. I was driving lead. In trying to navigate into the premise of the La Bawaleshi school, where the polling station was, It's a fenced-off enclosure. The size of the vehicle and my vehicle could not be accommodated by the opening in the fence wall, in the fencing that had been done. So I basically had to pull out to wait for the rest of the convoy to exit. I then noticed that after the first car had gone past me, there were still about 5 cars left with the hunter vehicle, the special purpose vehicle that the police use that had the SWAT logo on it, still within the premises of the polling station. But then I noticed that the cars had stopped moving. And I saw the men in the pickup still in the building disembark from the back, the bucket of the pickup, and run behind my vehicle. That aroused my attention. I looked and I realized that close to about 20 to 30 of these men had surrounded Mami Efua's vehicle. I alighted from my vehicle to inquire what was happening. At this point in time, it came to my knowledge that they said they were arresting Mami Efua Sechiedu and seizing her phone because she had taken a picture of them. I tried to engage with this masked, built and heavily armed men to no avail. At that point in time, I recognized DSP Samuel Kojo Azuki. I mean, this commission would testify that he has an imposing structure. And seeing him there, I approached him. He was somebody who I knew from the news that involved the Agogo Fulani herdsmen issue. That was the first time I'd gotten to know about DSP Azuki, then ASP Azuki. So seeing him there in full police uniform, I approached him and said, introduced myself to him. I approached DSP Azuki. I repeat for emphasis that I approached DSP Azuki. He was standing a few meters away from the altercation that was going on. And when I approached him, I said to him, "Yes, my name is On." He said, "You're standing there and you are seeing the assault that is going on. You need to intervene and stop the boys." And he asked me, what was the problem? Then I said, that is the Deputy National Women's Organizer of the NDC. This is not just around 8 a.m. because we arrived there at around 8 a.m. in the morning. It's too early in the morning for us to have any escalation and flaring of tempers. Arresting the Deputy National Women Organizer of the NDC for taking a picture in a by-election like this would create major problems. He walked with me to the vehicle and gave the instruction that the men who were trying to arrest or were assaulting Honorable Madame Mami Efua let go of her and return her phone to her. Once that was done, the boys all pulled off and Mami Efua's phone was left with her, and we were allowed entry into the polling station. So I drove in and parked my car by the fence and went straight to the polling station. There was a polling station in a 3-story structure that was there. The polling station was on the ground floor. I approached the presiding officer, the security officer on duty and immigration, who was dressed in an immigration uniform, and spoke to him. And then, whilst I was speaking to my party's agent at that polling station, I noticed that the armed masked men had now started running towards the direction behind the building where that housed the polling station. It aroused my attention again. I asked, what is going on? I'm there to monitor the elections. And so I needed to know why this whole retinue of close to 40, 50, and there was the call, "Hey, come, come, come." And it was just a mad rush towards that place. After I asked and I wasn't given any answers, once again, I approached DSP Samuel Azuki. This time when I approached him, I noticed he was walking with another gentleman who was not wearing a mask, but was wearing a military ballistic helmet, was wearing an olive green shirt, long sleeve shirt. He had a military issue bulletproof vest on and was wearing khaki trousers. And wearing khaki trousers, and he was holding an AK-47 assault rifle. I recognized that gentleman as a national security operative that I had encountered at the VIP lounge of the Kotoka International Airport the last time I traveled. But he was part of this operation and was working with DSP Azubu. When I approached DSP Azubu again, I asked him what his men were going to do behind the building. And I went back to him because I believed, based on his order to the men when they were trying to arrest Mami Ifwa, that they complied with, that he was in control. This time, I kept gesticulating and telling him the men were going there, and he just waved it off with a brush of the hand and said nothing is going on. When I realized that I wasn't getting a headway this time, I decided to follow up myself and get there to see what was happening. I followed the trail of men and ended up at a place which I found out at that point to be the residence of the NDC candidate in the elections, Besi Delali Brimpong. Before that, I didn't know that he even had a house in close proximity to the building, to the polling station. Upon getting there, I saw between 30 and 40 of these heavily armed masked men, all in NSC emblazoned black t-shirts and khaki trousers. I didn't take notice of men wearing the uniform of the Ghana Police Service at that scene. And then I also saw a crowd of about 30 to 40 men and women. Some of the women were carrying children. And there appeared to have been a standoff between these two crowds that I met. I approached and tried to get in between to find out what was going on. The men, some of the men in the crowd noticed me and recognized me and said, "Honorable, they've come and they are trying to intimidate us and they've seized our key." I asked, "What key?" Said, "One of the men, this national security, in fact, they said, one of these invisible forces has seized our keys." When I turned around, I noticed the gentleman from the national security that I had described earlier, who works at the protocol lounge of the VIP, whom I know or I had encountered previously and know to be called Double. That is the name I know him by, Double. At that location, many of the men who were in the NSC emblazoned t-shirts were carrying sidearms, pistols, and many of them were either masked or unmasked, and they were wearing the NSC emblazoned t-shirts. Double, like I've indicated already, was dressed differently and carrying an AK-47 assault rifle. I approached him this time because DSP Azubu, again, for the records, was not at that scene. I approached Double and engaged Double in a conversation and said to him, "Tell your guys to go back. You have no business in the residence of the NDC candidate today. What are you doing here?" And he said to me, his men will not pull back if the crowd didn't go into the house. I told him, "Double, your request is unreasonable. This is the residence of the NDC candidate in the election. Let your people go back." Whilst all of this conversation was going on between myself and Double, there were various bits and pieces of scuffles going on between the crowd and the marksmen. Then I said to him, "They say you have a key. Give me the key." It appears to be agitating a number of the men. He said to me, he doesn't have a key, but he will find the key and give to me. But I should ask the crowd to maintain a line, and he and his men would make a retreat to their vehicles. I agreed to that. Whilst that conversation was going on, then a scuffle involving quite a number of the masked men and the crowd broke out this time, where blows were being thrown in the open. The next thing I heard, whilst trying to find my bearing, were warning shots, or were shots fired in the air. That is what I recall. Shots were immediately fired in the air. At that moment, there was a red pickup that was parked along the wall of Mr. Brimpong's house. And just next to that red pickup was a space, an opening in the wall. I immediately took cover against the wall and stood right against the wall, because the next 60 seconds appeared to be stuff out of an action movie. I saw these armed men pull out, a number of them, pull out their side weapons, point in the crowd. The crowd had started dispersing as soon as the first shots were fired. But this time, I saw them point directly into the crowd, in the direction of the crowd, and fire. I saw Double also point his AK-47 and attempt to fire. The gun jammed. I saw him clear his chamber, reload the gun, and fire several rounds from his AK-47. My Lord, recounting this leaves me a little traumatized, because this was live fire straight at an armed Ghanaian citizen. I'm a member of parliament. I kept screaming for it to stop. After about 60 seconds, and what appeared to me to be well over 40 shots fired, the firing ceased, and Double gave the order for the men to retreat, and the retreat began. But he was the last man behind, and he beckoned to me to walk with him to their vehicles for the keys. And he asked me to stand by him and walk with him. This was what took me back to the polling station, the Labawaleshi polling station. Anybody who's visited the scene would testify that there is a building between the school and where the premises of the candidate is, which has a short wall, so we all jumped over the wall. Some uncompleted building of some sort. By the time myself and Double got into that building, I realized a young man in white t-shirt and brown trousers was being accosted by about 5 of the men who were ahead of Double. All I remember seeing was that he was struck by, I can't remember whether it was a gun or a button, but I realized he was struck and he fell to the ground. These officers, these 4 to 5 men, continuously kicked him in the head and in his body parts whilst he lay on the ground. I saw one of them pick a concrete block and attempt to smash it into the man. I kept screaming, "Double, stop your men. This is wrong." He told me to shut up. That wasn't my business. And I said to him, "I'm a member of parliament. This is wrong." And he asked me if I knew what a stray bullet was. At that point in time, I shut up. I saw this individual in the white t-shirt and brown trousers lying motionless, bleeding from his mouth and his nose. As I made my way out, I saw the Deputy National Women Organizer running into the scene and crying, "Wome kuno, to wait, they've killed him, they've killed him." At the time I left with Double, the gentleman was motionless and bleeding from his mouth and his nose after I had seen him being kicked repeatedly on the floor. When we got to the vehicle, Double walked with me outside the premise of the building because his vehicle was outside the premise. I asked him for the key, and he said to me he had no key to give to me. He will find the key subsequently and I will get it. As we walked to his car, Mr. Roland Walker of Joy TV was attempting to grant me an interview. And I said to him to hold on. And he kept asking me what I had to sort this out and I'll be back to you. When I went and I was told that there was no key to give to me, this was now in the open glare. It was not in that confine of the small building. I then started repeating to the men, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. You can't kill a man in his own house. This is so wrong. No matter how long it takes, justice will be served. This is so wrong. I was walking away, and I see that on the video you showed. As I walked away, my name was called twice by men in one of the vehicles. Sam George, you think you're so strong. You see what we'll do to you. At that point, I turned around and asked, what will you do to me? Are you a security officer or a party agent? My Lord, I will repeat again for emphasis the conversation or the dialogue, the entire dialogue between myself and the officers in the vehicle. My name was called out. Sam George, you think you are so strong, we would deal with you. At this point, I turned around and addressed the officer in the vehicle and asked him, what will you do? Are you a police officer or a party officer? These were my questions to them. I said nothing more than that. The last thing I remember being said to me from the officer in the vehicle was, this is the beginning of 2020. Wallahi. Then I noticed a gentleman standing to my left was hit by one of the security operatives standing there. I was trying to understand what was going on when another officer dressed in black, who I have gone ahead to identify as Mohammed Sule, the son of the late Nantona, and an operative of the national security apparatus who was on operation that day, assaulted me. He hit me the first time. And I approached him back and asked him, why are you hitting me? What is my offense? And he hit me a second time. There were uniformed police officers on the scene. Their only intervention was to pick up a mobile phone of the national security operative that had fallen down, and not to protect me, a citizen, an armed citizen of the Republic of Ghana. While this was going on, from the corner of my eye, I noticed second national security operative, this time dressed in black, the black top and the khaki trouser, and wearing a bulletproof vest. He was also masked, jumped and hit me from the side in the neck. So when I hear testimony that suggests that I was assaulted by one man, my lords, the evidence and video, your video you showed, contradicts that position. At least 2 officers from the national security assaulted me. At this point in time, I had to make a split-second decision. Kneel down there and say my last prayers, or take flight. I chose the latter. I took flight. I ran for my dear life as fast as my legs could carry my bulky frame. In running, I heard gunshots again. In all honesty and sincerity, my conclusion was, those shots were meant for me. In all honesty, my conclusion was that those shots that were being fired at me. So I was running in a straight line when I heard the shots. Maybe I've watched one movie too many. I realized that I shouldn't run in a straight line. So I took a detour instead of running straight. That took me into the building that housed the polling station, the 3-story building. When I ran into that building, I ran into a room on the ground floor When I entered there, I saw a gentleman who was hiding in that room also, wearing a City FM reporter's jacket. I saw an EC officer, and I saw the ballot box inside that room, because polling had ended. With the violence going on at the station, the EC officer had carried the ballot box and ran into that room. From that room, I saw some recordings being taken of what was going on outside in the park. At this point in time, it appeared to be a free-for-all, beat anyone you can see. People who were there, who were onlookers, people who were probably coming to vote, anybody who was present, who was not attired like them, was assaulted. Then I saw a team, some of the armed marksmen, towards the building. I was on the ground floor. I decided to run to the top of the building. When I ran to the top of the building, I noticed that the men were shouting my name and checking the offices on the ground floor, or the rooms on the ground floor. It appeared to be a search for me. At this point, I picked out my phone and did a Facebook post. It could be the last post I may have made if those men had laid hands on me, and said, I have been assaulted and I've been shot at, and this is what is happening at Ayawaso. In no time after my post was done, with the men on the second floor at the time, they halted the search. Descended the building, went into their vehicles, and they started leaving the place. I stayed in that building for about another 10 minutes to be sure that the coast was clear before I descended. I got down. I was bleeding from my hands. I had been hit a number of times by I don't know what in my back whilst I took flight. And so I proceeded to the residence of Mr. Delali. When I got there, I noticed that there were splatters of blood, several pools of blood on the floor. And the people there, Honorable, see what they've done to us. They shot people, see bones. And I saw what appeared to be fragments of human bones there. So then I said to them, bring stones and let us cordon off this area. If the police comes, they will see what are supposed to be evidence at the crime scene. Then one of the men, Honorable, they were shooting us. They shot us with guns, live bullets. And he brought me a shell casing. He showed me a shell casing. I had been there and witnessed the shooting. So when he brought the shell casing to me, I asked the gentleman around to go around and pick as many shell casings as they could. And my Lord, whilst I waited, they brought me those shell casings, which I have with me in the same rubber bag that in which it was brought to me. My Lord, there are two different types of shell casings that were brought. And this is what the gentleman picked and brought to me before I left. In fact, this in itself is a round. Forgive me, my hands are shaking, but my Lord, here, this appeared to be, from the markings on them, 9mm shell casings. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 of those shell casings. This appeared to be shell casings from an AK-47. My Lord, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spent shell casings and live round from an AK-47. So this in itself is 18 plus 10, 28 plus 1 use case and 29 that were picked on the spot on the day and brought to me. After spending a few minutes there and washing the blood off my hand, I returned to the polling station because, like I said, I had parked my car over there. I was driving alone. As traumatized as I was, I had to go back, drive myself from there to Shiashi, which is where the NDC had its operational center for the elections. I went, reported to my national executives who were present at the time what had transpired, and I proceeded to a private medical practitioner after which I proceeded home because my party had announced that they had pulled out of the election by the time. And if I may add, my Lord, whilst leaving the candidate's house to go and pick my vehicle, this was around 9 in the morning. That was when I encountered Mr. Brimpong, coming to his house. I was leaving. Well, he appeared to be very agitated. I was traumatized. So even if it was somebody I knew, I just said hello to him and quietly walked past to my vehicle. That was the only time I engaged Mr. Brimpong on the day.
Council, continue with your question. Just a few questions, and then we'll rise for a short break and then come back. It's not for you to go into the credibility otherwise of those testimonies, but to point out contradictions as you started to say. So
my Lord, respectfully, these were specific allegations where my name was mentioned. For example, in the way I arrived at the station. For example, Honorable Kandapa said I arrived in a car with 3 people in my car and 15 motorbikes. That is what I want to put on record, that I did not appear in that manner at the polling station.
Okay.
Honorable Brian Champon also said that I arrived there alone in my car, but with 15 motorbikers. Again, I want to state for emphasis that I arrived alone in my car without a motorbike. DSP Azugu said I arrived with Mamefwa and Okovandapoy in my vehicle and 15 motorbikers and another vehicle that he didn't know who sat in. Again, for emphasis, I did not arrive there with any motorbikers. I did not arrive in the company of Okovandapoy. I only met Honorable Okovandapoy on Legon campus at 6:45 a.m. Again, it's been said that I was asked by Okovandapoy to leave the scene with the motorbikers. I did not meet Okovandapoy at Labawaleshi. Again, it's been said that I went into the house that was under surveillance from the polling station with the motorbikers. I did not even know, my Lord, that the residence of Mr. Kwesi Delali Brimpong was behind the polling station. And as I've stated in my previous testimony, my engagement with DSP Azugu is in video, which I will tender in evidence here, went from the entry to the polling station to the house with the men on the ground. And the last issue that I want to address is the fact that I provoked the national security officers. My lords, I have recounted for this commission what my dialogue with them was. That all I asked, after I'd been told I'll be dealt with, was what have I done? Are you a police officer or a party officer? That is all I asked, my Lord. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Just a few questions and then we'll rise.
All right, Mr. Chairman. Now, Mr. George, let's first of all deal with the ammunition cases. Now, according to you, those cases were handed over to you by other people, am I right?
Very well.
And according to you, these other people said those were from the shots by the national security operatives, am I right?
The shots I had been witness to, yes.
Now, you have taken the commission through the different types of ammunitions, am I right?
Yes, my lord.
Very well. And according to you, that is per the markings on the spent bullets, if I may put it that way.
Yes, my lord.
But then you can't say for certain that these have been discharged by the national security men, can you?
My lord, I was there when the national security attired men fired and discharged their weapons. I told you I was standing by a red pickup. That red pickup bears a bullet hole. A casing was picked from there. There was only one direction of shooting. There was only one group of people who shot whilst I was there. It was the men in khaki and national security shirts. The time span between me leaving there and coming and the intervening factors, for me, points to the fact that the casings that I was shown as soon as I arrived, and which I asked for them to look in the immediate vicinity of the crime scene and pick, for me, were the shell casings from the weapons that were discharged by these men wearing the national security attire.
Mr. George,
My
you
lord,
agree with me that you are not an ammunition expert, are you?
I'm not an expert, my lord.
So then, you also agree with me that there is a possibility, since you weren't there to witness the casings yourself, that these people might have brought the casings from somewhere else. Would you agree with me that there's a possibility at least?
My lord, that possibility will be presumptuous. Reason being, I saw the weapons discharged. When weapons are discharged, they drop casings.
Now, you also spoke about the issue of provocation.
Yes, my lord.
You followed reports that you provoked the man who assaulted you.
Yes, my lord.
You've seen our video,
Yes, my lord.
and I believe you've seen others of the same scene.
Yes, my lord.
Now, in the video, you are seen with a pointed hand towards the man's face. Do you want to have a look again, or?
It's fine, my lord.
Very well.
I lived the moment.
Very well. So at that point, what exactly were you saying with your hand pointed to the man's face?
Are you a police officer or a party officer?
How long did it take for you to say that? Because that went on for a while.
No, my lord. If you want, we can play the video again. It was a matter of seconds. We can play the video for the commission.
This is so wrong on every score, but no matter how long it takes, we will fight. This is so wrong. You kill a man in his own house. His own house. Here, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys. In his own house. In his own house.
Now, you first of all walked towards the vehicle,
Yes, my lord.
and you were saying something towards the vehicle.
I asked the question, are you a police officer or a party officer?
Very well. You also seen one-on-one with the man who assaulted you. What were you saying to that man as well?
I asked him why he had hit me. Because he had thrown his hand the first time. And so I came back at him and asked him, why was he hitting me? There was a heated exchange.
So, Lord,
My lord.
what would you say if I suggest to you, we will permit you to show your video, but before you do that, let me ask a few questions to clarify a point you made earlier. Now, on the question of the casings, the empty shells, why did you not submit them to the police, who are supposed to be experts of ballistics?
My lord, I believe that if you were in my shoes, where you saw men of the Ghana Police Service stand aloof and watched me, a citizen of this republic, an honorable member of parliament, being assaulted, and they stood aside and allowed that to go on without even trying to effect an arrest, but rather helping to pick up the phone of the person assaulting an unarmed citizen of this republic, it will show your faith in the Ghana Police Service. Subsequent to that, the Saturday after the assault or the elections, I was asked by my party to report to the Legon police station and make an official complaint. I went to the Legon police station. They refused to take my statement, my lord. The Legon police refused to take my statement. My statement was then subsequently taken by the National CID after a whole week of the event had transpired. I drew the attention of the Director General of CID to this fact. And he said they were going to look into the matter. But I went to Legon police station on the Saturday, which I believe will be the 2nd of February, at about 10:30 a.m. in the morning. They refused to take my statement. So this would explain why I would be reluctant to hand such critical evidence to the police service. But I have absolute trust in the commissioners of this commission.
Very well. Now, according to your testimony, when you got back to the shooting scene, you asked the men to help you cordon off some of the evidence. Am I right?
Yes, my lord.
Why did you do that?
I was trying to preserve the crime scene.
So that it will not be contaminated. Am I right?
Yes, my lord.
But you agree with me that having taken the cases out of the crime scene as they are now, they have been contaminated.
Depends on what crime you are looking at. Are you looking at the crime of shooting unarmed Ghanaians by a team of people who you've been told were not armed? If we're looking at that crime, these shell casings establish the fact that the national security men who met the crowd at Brimpong's house were armed and that they discharged more than the 6 warning shots this commission has been told. So it depends on which part of the story you're looking at and where your interest lies.
Let me clarify the point that my interest doesn't lie anywhere.
Oh, not necessarily you, my lord.
My interest is with the truth. It's to help the commission get to the bottom of whatever took place on the 31st day of January 2019 at the Ayawaso polling station.
Duly noted, my lord.
Now, you have told the commission that you attempted to lodge a complaint at the East Legon police station.
No, my lord, the Legon police station.
Legon police
There's
station.
a difference between the Legon and East Legon police station.
Thank you very much. But then the police refused to take your complaint. Am I right?
My lord, I was told to go and that someone would call me, but they did not take my statement. And I asked the officer on duty, I have come to report, at least take my statement. She said I should go. She took my phone number and that I will be called. It took 72 hours for me to receive a call from Superintendent Afo of National CID, who said he was part of the investigation that had been commissioned by the IGP based on the complaints by the NPC to him. So no way related to my visit to the Legon police station.
Now, this officer who refused to take your complaint, did you find out why?
My lord, I asked for my statement to be taken. She said to me, it was a lady. She said to me, to go. She took my name and my phone number and said my statement will be taken subsequently. I asked the second time, so you won't take even anything down? She said, no, I will be called. 72 hours elapsed and I didn't receive a call until Superintendent Afo called me on the Tuesday.
Did you find out the name of this officer?
I can find out. I'm sure before the end of the day, I can get that for the commission.
The commission will be appreciated. Now let's watch your video.
Thank you. My lords, respectfully, I've got bits and pieces of videos that I will be showing to the commission and try to walk you through them. Listen. From media houses like City FM or City TV, Joy TV. There is one of the videos that was shot from within the house of Mr. Brimpong that has come to my knowledge, which I would also want to show, that will show and shed more light on the engagement from an elevated position.
The Commission would prefer that those who shot the videos come and tender the videos, so we'll be in a position to ask those questions about the videos.
My lord, insofar as these videos would substantiate portions of my testimony and strengthen that.
I agree. You can get
With that,
those people to come and tender the videos on your behalf.
my lord, if I may have to come in, it does appear at this point we are basically dealing with who at this point is proper person to have these pieces of evidence tendered in. Whether at this point he's in the rightful position to do that. And I believe that the overriding consideration should be the relevance of this, so that regardless of source, if it's demonstrated that this video, unfortunately this is not a more formal position where you lead a certain foundation before this is tendered in. But then, if it is demonstrated that these pieces of evidence or videos are relevant to resolving the matter, with the greatest respect to the Commission, the question as to who and how it was done, if in terms of its relevance to be looked at, so that at the end the Commission can then decide what weight to place on these pieces of evidence.
Also, we've seen so many different videos.
Very well.
And we've seen videos which other people contend have been doctored. Okay?
Very well.
And so in order to be sure that the videos are not only relevant, but we are sure about the source of the videos and how they were taken, it's important for us to get the people who took the videos to come and not stop in the applying for getting the people who took the videos to come and tender them for us.
Very well. My Lord, I'm just looking at the situation because this is more like a truth commission. these videos where somebody comes here and make a specific allegation about doctrine, then the burden is on that person to demonstrate what is the original. At this point, these pieces of evidence are yet to even be tendered in. And my lords, as you can see on the screen, if there is any dispute as to any of this, we may then be given the opportunity to speak to it. But in order to substantiate the claims that we have made before this commission, we humbly pray that we'll be given the opportunity to have this video tendered in so we can speak to it with respect.
Videos.
Very well. We are most grateful.
Ourselves.
We are most grateful. You will not have the benefit to speak to. My Lord, if
I've indicated that these videos corroborate his testimony.
that is so.
When we watch the videos, we'll determine whether the videos corroborate his testimony. We'll have an opportunity to do that.
My Lord,
You
my
can
Lord,
tender them. You can tender them.
if my Lord will permit me brief, my Lord will notice that in some of the videos, the witness want to speak specifically to scenes and events. You know, they are moving moving videos without the benefit of knowing what happened. So a brief explanation, less than 30 seconds, to explain to the commission. I pray that the commission humbly agree to this very humble application. So that because Leonard Counsel has succeeded in even asking a witness questions, specific questions about scenes in the videos. We just want that benefit.
Counsel,
Very
he also stated that these are bits and pieces of videos.
It's not continuous. There are different scenes. And that is why my lords will need a benefit. Just 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
We will take them. You will tender them and we'll have a look at them.
Very well.
Now, Mr. George,
My Lord.
in the video I showed to you, you are heard in the video saying, if I'm wrong, tell me, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. What were you referring to in the video as being so wrong?
My Lord, if we could play the videos as my counsel had made requests for and allowed me to walk through, all of this would have been answered. But in one of the videos that I wish you would let me play, you would see footage of the gentleman who, in my testimony, I had made reference to as having been attacked, and I presumed genuinely at the time to be dead. You would see video of his body and the bleeding. That video is available. If the commission will be kind enough, I will play it. But it is that and the shooting into a crowd of unarmed Ghanaian citizens that I was complaining about and saying was so wrong. And my Lord, if I may just add, the reason why I would be grateful to this commission for the establishment of truth, to walk through some of the videos, is that most of the videos, including the one, my Lord, you have played and you are questioning me on, have not followed the sequence of events on the day. What you showed is from a media house that has been pieced together by them. I lived those moments. They do not follow the sequence in which the events happened. And that is why I wished I would have been allowed to walk you through and tell you that even though this is here, this came before this, and this came after this. This, I believe, will clear any doubts in the mind of anybody about what transpired on those videos.
But then you will agree with me that you have been given the opportunity by the commission to walk the commission through sequences of events. Am I right?
Yes, I have given testimony. However, if there is video evidence, thanks to the digital age we live in, that would support and lend credence so that it is not assumed that portions of my testimony may be fabrications, but are backed by hard evidence. I believe it's only in the pursuance of justice that that be done.
Very well. So then, if I got you right, you were referring to the man in white top, according to your evidence, who, according to you, was lying motionless. Am I right?
At the time I left him, yes.
And now, you are also heard saying you kill a man in his own house. Who were you referring to?
Same man. My assumption at the time was that we had entered into a compound of somebody, we had met the man, I assumed that that was his house.
Okay, so then what you are telling the commission is that whatever you said then was only an assumption.
It was based on the events that I had witnessed at the time, bearing in mind the trauma of having been attacked or of having seen citizens of this country being shot at.
Now, did you make any attempt to examine this man?
My lord, when I had been told to shut up, else I would experience a stray bullet, that would have been me signing my death warrant and leaving my young wife and 2 young sons to fend for themselves.
So then, you will agree with me, won't you, that those statements made were unfortunate, especially when you did not have the evidence to back that up as at the time.
I disagree with you.
If
Allowed. Highly prejudicial. Highly prejudicial. It should be disallowed. It should be disallowed. Highly prejudicial. To have reached that conclusion is highly prejudicial, with the greatest respect.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the question is well founded. The question was from the testimony he's just given. And given the fact that subsequently it's turned out that no one died, the question was on the matters and the statement made in the video were unfortunate.
My lords, with the greatest respect once again, learned counsel and myself, like we say, you and I were not there. He lived the moment. At that spell, contemporaneous with the event, he made certain statements. You and I today have the benefit of what has happened subsequently. So to proceed on that basis to describe that statement made contemporaneous to be unfortunate will be prejudicial, with the greatest respect. It's a truth commission. Obviously not adversarial. Please.
Mr. Chairman, it appears what counsel is failing to appreciate is that per CI 65, counsel is not only supposed to lead the witness in evidence, but then counsel is given the duty to probe the evidence. And there is nothing wrong with the question, so long as it's of a probative value. And Mr. Chairman, I say that That was the purpose of the question. And for that matter must be allowed.
I mean, what is in this question? I mean, if the suggestion is that the statement was unfortunate because actually nobody died, how does it, I don't really see what you are objecting to, but I would ask counsel to move on to another question. I don't really...
That is so.
I don't really
We
see
appreciate
that this is extremely relevant or prejudicial, but I'll let you move on. But counsel, I think you must appreciate that this is a commission of inquiry, it's not a court of law. And so please be mindful of the role of counsel for the commission.
Mr. George,
My lord,
were you aware, as at the time the statement was made, that the whole election was being telecast?
my lord, the election being telecast, that would be a novelty.
I mean, scenes from various polling stations were being telecast.
I had no way to tell. I had no TV by me. I saw media men there.
Okay. Were you also aware that scenes were being broadcasted?
I had no way to tell. I had no TV by me.
Very well. Now, in the video you were showing, there is this gentleman wearing a black top and a khaki trouser. In fact, he's wearing a long-sleeved black shirt, who appears to be making a gun gesture and appears to be saying, "We will kill you, we will kill you." Do you want to have a look again to be sure?
Counsel, I remember you're talking about, only that I disagree with your description of what he said. If you want, we can play
Very well.
the video.
This is so wrong on every score. But no matter how long it takes, we will fight. This is so wrong. You kill a man in his own house. This is so wrong on every score. But no matter how long it takes, we will fight. This is so wrong. In his own house. We'll still look at it. We'll still look at it.
Did you hear him?
Yes, my lord.
Did you tell the commission what you heard?
I heard him say, "We will sue you guys." Because prior to even saying that, my lord, if you watch the video closely, as a law-abiding citizen that I assume him to be, you see that he was reporting to uniformed officers of the Ghana police and immigration who were present there. He was complaining to them. I saw that in the video. And then I heard him say, "We will sue you. We will sue you." That's what I heard. Very well.
Now, do you know who this gentleman is?
My lord, I don't.
Are you putting it on record that prior to that scene, you have never come across this gentleman?
My lord, my testimony before this commission is that I arrived at the polling station alone in my vehicle. I do not know the gentleman in question.
Now, there are reports that, and I've also listened to an interview with one Kojo of Joy FM on the day. Do you confirm you granted that interview?
I remember I spoke to a number of media houses. It's possible.
Very well. Now, in this interview I'm referring to, you stated that whilst in hiding, when a reporter of City FM and other people, which you have repeated, you made a post on your Facebook. Is that the case?
If my memory serves me right, yes.
Very well. Are you able to repeat exactly what was said in that post to the commission?
My Lord, if the commission will allow me access my Facebook page, I'm sure I can read out the post verbatim. But to, off the top of my head, recollect a Facebook post from almost a month ago will be difficult. If you have a printout, I can authenticate that it is my post and then read it out.
I've got a copy here, which does not show the whole, but then it shows a picture. So if you can identify that for us.
Well, this appears to be a part of my Facebook post that has been cut, not the full Facebook post.
Also take a look at this. And confirm if that reflects what you put on Facebook on the day.
Yes, this is my Facebook post.
Could you please read that out to the commission?
I have just been assaulted by several members of the NPP Invisible Forces attired in National Security Council shirts and vests. They fired several rounds of ammunition at me simply because I was doing my legal job of monitoring the Ayawaso West Walk-on by-election. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, I am grateful to you.
Honorable,
My Lord.
as at the time of the
So that when I'm done with it, I keep this to respond to your question to it.
I'll return it to you then.
Very well.
You will agree with me that as at the time of this post, you did not know exactly the men who had attacked you.
My Lord, the men were masked and unmasked men sitting in the state's vehicles wearing T-shirts that had NSC emblazoned on them. I've worked in government before. I know what NSC stands for. National Security Council. The president is chairman of that council.
So you agree with me that NSC, or National Security Council, is not the same as the NPP Invincible Force. Would you?
My Lord, again, if you would allow me go back into my presentation, my visual presentation I've been stopped from showing, I would establish to you why some of those people, with evidence, are members of the NPP Invisible Forces.
Now, let's stay within the period when the post was made. As at the time you made that Facebook post, you did not have any evidence to prove that those men were members of the Invincible Force. Am I right or wrong?
My Lord, you are wrong.
Now, would you tell the commission what informed your view that those men were NPP Invisible Force?
Thank you, my Lord. I have mentioned an individual who I told you carried an AK-47, who is currently working as a member of the national security at the Kotoka International Airport VIP Lounge. Prior to the 2016 election and coming into office of the NPP and government, when he now became a national security operator, he had been a member of the Invisible Forces and had been on the campaign trail with members of the NPP, leading members of the NPP. There's evidence to that that can be adduced to this commission. We had seen his pictures, like a witness before this commission has done, to show pictures of individuals with political figures. I have pictures also of the said individual with leading members, national executives, the running mates at the time, and now vice president of the country. in the same picture shot, providing security to those individuals. So with that knowledge, I knew that yes, this was a former member or a member of the invisible forces who now works as a national security operative.
No.
My lord,
Are you telling the commission that as at the time you made the post, you had all this information? Is that what you're saying?
my lord, I'm saying to you that this is somebody I knew. We had followed the election. These pictures were not posted post the event. The pictures of them with national executives and the running mates of the NPP at the time were posted prior to this event. I had been an active player in the 2016 election. We had watched and monitored, both parties monitored each other's campaigns. We had seen these individuals, and so we knew who they were.
According to your testimony, most of these men were masked. Am I right?
I said some of the men were masked. And in my testimony, I recall repeating to you that the gentleman who I referred to as Double was not wearing a mask. I said he was wearing a military ballistic helmet, not a mask.
Very well. So then, if I heard you right, what you are saying is that Double, as a gentleman you refer to as Double, is the only man you had previously known to be aligned with the invincible force. Is that what you're saying?
One man armed with an AK-47 is evidence enough for me to have made the conclusion I made.
You haven't answered my question.
I have, my lord, respectfully.
My question once again is that your conclusion of the men being invisible force was only based on one man, true or false?
My lord, one man who was a member of the invisible forces, now in the national security, is enough legal grounds for me to have drawn that conclusion.
Honorable, am I right or wrong?
I don't know what you're asking me to prove right or wrong. I'm stating the fact that I know, the truth that I know, that one man that I knew to be a member of the invisible forces, now part of the security operatives from National Security Council, formed a right basis in law for me, or in fact, for me to establish that my post was done in all honesty.
The chairman, if council could be cautioned to be quiet when the witness is talking, because a lot of feed is coming from council. I don't think it helps the exercise. I'm asking for the last time. The SWAT team on the day, the commission has been told, were made up of 60 men. Has that come to your attention?
I have heard that, but I disagree with that.
Very well. So on the day, if you can recount, how many men dressed in national security uniform did you see?
It would be difficult for me to give you an exact figure, but clearly more than 60. There were 10 vehicles. Each of these vehicles had at least, from what I saw and from the pictures we have seen, some of them had 8 men, some had 10 men. Simple multiplication of 7 or 8 by 10 will give you at least 50 men.
Honorable, and out of 80 men, from your account, you could identify one man. Am I right?
That's not what I've said, Counsel. My lord.
Very well, I'll leave that. Now, the Facebook post
Yes, my lord.
also says that they fired several rounds of ammunition at me. Honorable, where did this happen?
My lord, respectfully, the emphasis of at me, was that from the post or from you?
It's actually from the post, if you want to read it yourself.
No, the stress point in the narration that's referring to.
Very well.
Well, yes, I made the claim in my testimony before the commission that when I started running away after the assault had begun on me, I had gunshots, which I honestly believed at the time were me. And there's video to that evidence. There's video that will show you, and again, I'm coming back to my evidence that I have not been allowed to walk the commission through. If I walk you through it, you would see when the assault began on me, you will see the masked men disembark and run en masse. You will see some of them pointing the pistols they were holding in that direction. And even if you go to the school building where I went today, you will see bullet marks in the building.
Now, are you by that saying that you were close to the school building? Is that what you're saying?
I ran into the school building. That's the 3-story building I've been speaking about. That is where I took refuge. The school building that had the polling station on the ground floor.
Honorable, how far were these men when they were shooting at you?
My lord, this happened behind me. Unfortunately, I don't see behind me.
But then you were prior to that incident with these men, am I right?
Yes, my lord.
With
With the 2 people who had assaulted me. And then I saw the avalanche of other men coming. And I took to my heels.
Honorable,
My lord.
if you say the 2 people who had assaulted you, what exactly are you referring to?
Your video you showed me, my lord, on your video that you showed to me, it shows 2 men assaulting me. 2 men directly hitting me. There's further video, but your video truncates immediately after that. But in my videos that I have, it goes on a little further, which would have shown you what transpired after the second man hit me from the side, who was dressed in brown. If you watch your video, I was hit by a gentleman, a man who I've identified to you as Mohammed Sule, the son of the late Nantonna, who hit me first, who I challenged and hit me a second time. And then there was another gentleman in the brown khaki uniform who came from the side and hit me. He hit me in my neck. At least your video captures that. There's video that I have that shows the further action after that, which shows the large crowd in which you will see me in that further video. You will see me retreating and taking to my heels. And then you will see that there were innocent bystanders. I mean, even if you saw how some of them were dressed in flip-flops, who were caught in all of that, kicked and beaten, and you will see that one of the men points the gun, and they are gunshots. There's audio to the video. So you would see all of that if I'm allowed to show and walk the commission through.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So what you are telling the commission is that this incident of being shot at took place immediately after the assault. Is that the case?
Absolutely. Part of the assault. After I was hit and I took to my heels, I heard the gunshots.
Now, in terms of sequence, the assault and the shooting incident at the MP's house, which happened first?
The shooting at the MP's house happened, and that's why, again, I come back to requesting humbly that I be allowed to walk the commission through the sequence to erase all of this confusion about the sequence. When I arrived at the polling station, there was the incident at the entrance of the polling station with Mame Efua. Post that, the next incident was the shooting at the house of the candidate. If you remember in my testimony before this commission, I stated that Double asked me to walk back with them to the park, to the polling station, to retrieve a key that they had seized. In walking back with them, the assault on the gentleman I assumed to have been killed happened. Then I walked with Double to his car and no keys were given to me. In leaving his car and walking back, that is when I started complaining about what had been done that was wrong. And then that is when I was called by name and I responded, and then the assault happened. So the shooting at the house of the candidate preceded the assault on me. But the assault on me, apart from the physical hitting of my person, also included gunshots subsequently.
Honorable. And the source, as you can tell, is from Joy News.
Sam George, what happens?
Someone in the shop.
Are you sure that's what he said?
Yeah, he just said something.
Honorable,
My lord.
have you seen this video before?
Yes, I have. In fact, it's one of the videos I wished to have tended into evidence, so I'm grateful to you that I have, that I would have loved to tend into evidence.
Very well. Now, the video begins with a scene with you behind a number of the people we now know to be, or we are now told, national security operatives. Am I right?
Very true.
Now, will you tell the commission where you were coming from?
My lord, respectfully, if I will be allowed to stand and play the video and give you a narrative of the video, because I walked through it, I would appreciate it. My lord, the video commences with the men coming from the residence of Mr. Brimpong. And if you remember my testimony before this commission this morning, I stated that when Double agreed for his men to retreat, the men were ahead of us, and Double was the last man behind, and he asked me to walk by him. And that's what I would have loved to show you on the video. If you can just play it again, just the beginning part, I will show you that bit. If you're a technical person, I will show you me walking with Double and show you the men ahead of us. It's on the video, it's on your video. Please don't go, I'll just let you pause it when it starts. So these are the men, my lord, returning, because Mr. Brimpong's house is behind this place. So these are the men coming. These are the people who had engaged in the shooting at Mr. Brimpong's house. That is me walking with Double. Double is the gentleman in the ballistic helmet and with the jacket. That's Double. So you see, even when he took a turn, I followed him. I was following his instructions. And that's Roland Walker of Joy TV mentioning my name and asking me for an interview, which I declined. So you notice I kept following Double throughout because I was to pick up the keys from Double. And my lord, you see several of the men armed in the khaki uniform, armed, carrying assault weapons and other weapons. So my lord, you see me continue to follow Double, who is carrying the AK-47 on my right, because my instructions were to follow him to pick up a key. I was only abiding by the instructions of an armed man. My only arm that day was my EC accreditation card. Thank you, my lord.
So then you followed Double.
Yes, my lord.
What then happened whilst following Double?
My lord, like I said, I followed him to his car. At which point he indicated to me that he didn't have the key. When he indicated he didn't have the key, he said if he found it, they would let me have it. I left him. His car was parked outside because some of the cars were on the main road. Not all the 10 vehicles were still within the precincts of the polling station. Some were outside. I think his car was one of the vehicles outside. So I walked out of the premises with him. So in the other video you showed, where you saw me walking back and saying, this is so wrong, you will see that I just entered again through the gates, which are the confines of the polling station. So I walked with him to his car, didn't get the keys, and I walked back, and then that's when the confrontation and assault happened.
So then, for the benefit of the commission, what you are saying is that sequentially, the assault scene was followed by this last one we watched. Am I right?
No, you're getting it wrong, my lord.
Very well.
This preceded the assault scene.
This preceded the assault scene. But
this is after the shooting at the residence of Mr. Brimpong and the assault on the man I presumed to have been dead or to have been killed. This is the video from that. And this video ends just before I am returning after I had not received the key. Where your other video commences from, where I was saying this is so wrong. So this video shows the period between Mr. Brimpong's house, the shooting at Mr. Brimpong's house, and the assault on the individual that I presume to have been killed, and then the assault or confrontation that led to the assault on me.
Very well. Correct me once again if you think I'm wrong. So then, what you are saying is that sequentially, the first video immediately follows this one.
There
you are saying.
Absolutely.
Or
the sequence of events, yes. Because once this video ended with me walking with Double to his car. Then the second video you showed shows me walking back after my unsuccessful attempt to retrieve the key. And that is when the assault on me happened.
Very well. Zajoy,
My lord.
for how long have you been in politics?
My lord, I started active politics in 2008. So I would say this is my 11th year.
Will it be wrong if I then presume that you are an experienced politician, because 11 years is a long time? Could I be wrong?
My lord, in the scheme of things in this country, I'm but a child in the game of politics.
But then, you will agree with me that you've had the opportunity to follow elections and by elections, at least for the past 11 years. Am I right?
Yes, my lord.
Now, you will agree with me that for some time now, by elections in this country in particular have been characterized by violence. Am I right or wrong?
My lord, this I would consider an opinion. I'm in no way able to establish as a fact or otherwise. I do not know what the empirical basis for that conclusion would be.
Did you follow Tripoli?
Yes, my lord, I did.
Do you know what happened?
Yes, my lord. I followed the media reports. I wasn't there. So I can only recollect what was reported in the media.
And the report included violence, am I right?
Like even the general elections, some of the general elections, yes, it did.
Did you follow Etiwa?
Yes, my lord, I did.
Was that also through the media?
Yes, my lord, I was not present in Etiwa.
And violence were reported, am I right?
The media did report that, my lord.
You follow Talensi?
Yes, my lord, I did.
Was that also through media reportage?
My lord, I was in Talensi.
So then you agree with me that there was violence, am I right?
My lord, there were reported cases of violence, but like I've indicated, that is not peculiar to only by elections. Even in general elections, there are reported cases of violence. So yes, like all elections, there were reports of violence.
Now, since you were personally at Talensi, did you have the opportunity to observe some of the reported scenes of violence?
My lord, in Talensi, I was just a monitor, and where I monitored the elections, I did not observe.
But then, you agree with me that there's been reports of violence at some of our by-elections. Would you or you wouldn't?
My lord, like I've said, we've all followed, for example, was highlighted by then candidate Akufo-Addo in his campaign, one of his campaign messages, meetings. So yes, it found prominence that yes, there have been issues of violence in by-elections, like every other election.
Very well. As an experienced politician, even though you say you're a baby, 11 years, from your 11 years in politics, why, or what do you think are the causes of these violence associated with by-elections in particular?
My lord, in this instance, you will be inviting me to give opinion and not state fact.
Exactly, if that is what you have, yes.
Because I have no facts to support any of the assertions. But my opinion of violence and by-elections, would restricted to my limited knowledge on that, would be that because by-elections are seen by political parties as a national election altogether.
If you can slow down for me.
My apologies. Because by-elections are seen by the political parties as national elections of some sort, because you see the full weight of the national resource of art being deployed in the elections, it's very possible that that heightened presence of political heavyweights, for example, in the Ayawaso one that this is considering, myself and 21 colleagues of mine, members of parliament, were asked to monitor the elections. I saw the Deputy Minister for Information, Pius Enam Hajide, also campaigning actively that even though he's not resident or doesn't vote there. It just shows you the national interest in the election. We actually had the president go there to the campaign rally. We had the vice president go there to do a health walk. I mean, when you have the president and vice president involved in a parliamentary election, you realize that it is no mean parliamentary election. So that could be a reason that escalates these issues.
Now, viewing the by-election as a national event alone should not lead to violence. Would you agree with me?
My lord, when the stakes are higher, I mean, there's the human tendency for people to go to extremes.
Very well. Mr. George,
My lord,
tell me if these names are familiar. Azoka Boys, Hawks, Dragons, Lions, etc. Are these familiar?
my lord, I'm familiar with those two.
These are reported in quotes, to be vigilante groupings associated with your party, the National Democratic Party, the Congress.
You want me to lose my seat, my lord?
Are you familiar with that? With
My
that
lord.
assumption?
My lord, that assumption would be, once again, the opinion of whoever is making the assumption. What I know for a fact, which I can state without equivocation, is that the party I belong to, the National Democratic Congress, does not have any vigilante group. The two groups I told you I'm familiar with, the Ayawaso Boys and the Hawks, are groups that owe allegiance to individuals. For example, the Ayawaso Boys bear the name of Mr. Sofo Azoka. And for me, I would not refer to them as a vigilante group, because I would rather refer to them as a community-based organization. I have been in Tamale before, and in a community called Chogu, I witnessed the commissioning of a borehole project by the Ayawaso Boys that had been done based on community engagement in that area. So for me, I would not call them a vigilante group, but let me state the records that the National Democratic Congress does not have a vigilante group.
Now, would you tell the commission whether the description you have given and the name you want to give to the Ayawaso Boys also befits the Hawks?
Again, the Hawks are a group that individuals or an individual may have put up, but they are not a group recognized or affiliated to the NDC. The NDC is a body corporate in law that has a constitution, and there are procedures for affiliation of groups that are not part of the NDC but are affiliated to the group, to the party. And I believe from my checks with the party, the Hawks have not gone through any such affiliation. They may have patrons, individuals, but not with the party.
Honorable,
My Lord.
I don't know if you have come across these reports, but there are a number of reports in which the General Secretary of, let me use NDC here before I get it wrong, is quoted to have said that the NDC will only disband if the MPP does. Have you come across it?
My Lord, I haven't, so I can't speak to it.
There you go. There is also another report in which the national chairman is said to have made a similar statement. Have you come across that one?
My Lord, again, without the benefit of having heard those reports myself, I would only be entering into the realm of conjecture to want to speak to that.
Now, the commission has been given two different accounts as far as what is generally termed in Ghana as vigilantism is concerned. And we've had people here who sat where you were sitting. One said that the vigilante groupings belong to political parties. And there's this other one that says that the vigilante groups, in fact, they admit there are vigilante groups. The second opinion is that the vigilante groupings belong to individuals. From what you have just told the commission, will I be right in presuming that you are going with the second opinion, which says even though you refuse to call them vigilante groups, belong to individuals?
My Lord, you'll be right.
So then, if there is a call to disband these vigilante groups, in your opinion, who should be targeted? Is it party or individuals who own the groups?
My Lord, here again, I want to clarify that this is me giving an opinion on a national issue. My Lord, I believe that it would be naive for us to suggest, or for me to suggest, that political parties may not benefit from these groups. Let me state in clarity what my position is. I believe that this vigilante groups, for want of a better phrase, I would use that for this conversation. These vigilante groups owe allegiance to individuals. Now, these individuals use them for political purposes. The political purposes are served through a vehicle that is a political party. So these vigilante groups would owe allegiance to individuals who have a political agenda. The political party is just a vehicle and ends up being a beneficiary. I have also, you made reference to some media reports. I have also, there's a media report on Adum FM Online of a conversation between the self-acclaimed leader of the Delta Forces, Salawuddin, who granted an interview to Captain Smart of Adum FM and made categorical statements that some of the Delta Force members have been recruited into national security as reward for the work that they did for then candidate Akufo-Addo. It doesn't mean, and he goes ahead in that interview to name names of people in the NPP who are their financiers. So it is possible that individuals in a political party could set up such a group, fund them for political purposes of power, such that they become stakeholders in sharing, for want of a better phrase, the spoils of electoral victory. Because in that interview I referenced, and I have it on my laptop, there's a voice attached to the story. The gentleman makes the claim that the NPP would not have come to power if not for the work that they did, and for that reason, they were rewarded. You can stretch that to say that based on the work of the boys, it has given Mr. Azoka a certain standing within the NDC. However, I am in no position to say that the activities of those groups are expressly sanctioned by a political party. That I cannot say. This is my matter.
Very well. This interview you just referred to, could it be made available to the commission?
Yes, my lord. I would share the link and with the commission. I have it on my laptop. I can share it. It's got the story. It's an interview in Cree. They have put the voice recording. It's 22 minutes long, and then they've done an English transcribing of the interview for those who may not have the benefit of understanding the Cree language. So I will share the link with the commission.
Very well. The chairman, your witness. The questions pertaining to the exchange between yourself and the gentleman who assaulted you. Do you remember?
Yes, my lord.
Very well. Now, you told the commission what you told the gentleman, am I right?
I told the commission, and I believe the commission heard it on the commission's video.
Do you mind repeating that?
I recounted to the commission in my testimony what I said, and I believe that in the commission's video that it has played, what I said was heard by the commission.
Unfortunately, that is not too audible.
Oh, my lord, it is quite audible.
Very well.
If you want us to play it again, we can play it one more time.
Very well. We've had the commander of the SWAT team, which the commission has been told that this gentleman is an operative. And according to the commander, what you told the gentleman is different from what you just gave the commission. And I have it here on paper for you to identify, even though I won't let you read it aloud. Have you seen that?
Yes, my lord, I have.
What do you have to say?
My lord, we all swore an oath before we gave our testimony to tell nothing but the truth. I state without equivocation that what has been written on that paper and signed by DSP Samuel Kojo-Azubo is untrue and a fabrication. 1, it wasn't present when the altercation happened. 2, he has reported what has been reported to him. 3, I am stating what I was actively involved in. And 4, I believe that if the commission is so minded, we can hand that video over to an audio forensic expert to not just listen to what I said, but read my lips. Thankfully, there's video that will show that the distasteful things that have been written on that piece of paper are just aimed at maligning my reputation and bringing me to public opprobrium. The suggestion that I would even say that, my lord, leaves me sick in my stomach.
Are you done?
Yes, my lord.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, your witness.